This is the biggest draw in college football. This is the biggest star. The guy who is struggling to generate interest, the coach who is struggling to draw flies to a fresh turd, the guy who calls himself prime because he is struggling to draw ratings in prime time. This guy? We are, 2 months into college football season, which means we're about halfway through the year. Goes by fast, doesn't it? I mean, the damn summer months, they seem to last forever, while fall and winter, they are over before you know it. But we are halfway through college football season. Is it just me, or does it seem like we have barely heard anything about Deion Sanders? Last season, Deion Sanders, he was generating headlines on a daily basis. Besides the first couple of weeks of the season, it seems like we have barely heard anything about Deion Sanders in Colorado. Why? I'll tell you what I believe is the reason, but first, let's go ahead and get to these ratings. Last Saturday against Arizona, Colorado, they drew their lowest ratings on broadcast television in the Deion Sanders era. Just over 2 million people watched their game on Fox. Now, that number's down 34% from Texas-Houston last year. To make matters worse, ratings for Colorado games this season, they are down 49%. At this point last year, Deion Sanders was averaging 7.6 million viewers. This year, he's got that number down to a cool 3.8 million. 5 of their first 6 games last year eclipsed 7 million viewers. So far this year, Deion Sanders, he has failed to hit that number once. How in the hell did this happen? How did the biggest star in college football, how did the most controversial coach, someone who commanded attention, how did he go from constantly getting noticed to being ignored? If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. If you happen to stumble across this video, be sure to check out my main channel, Behind the Line. Search Behind the Line here on YouTube. Should be the first channel that comes up. You know, I think part of the reason that Deion Sanders has kind of faded out of the mainstream spotlight, I think it's by design. It's intentional. I think Deion Sanders finally realized that he wasn't doing his team any favors by creating unnecessary distractions. Fighting with the media, inviting doofus duos like Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp. Hey, it's me, Shay Shay! Inviting them to stand on the sidelines, having Lil Wayne walk the team out on the field. Basically, turning the program into a fucking circus. I think Deion Sanders realized that it was doing more harm than good. The number one thing head coaches try to eliminate: distractions. Incredibly difficult to do that when the head coach is the biggest distraction. Deion Sanders, he seems to have toned things down a little bit, which gives the media less to talk about. So that could be part of the reason, but I think the main reason that Colorado has kind of fallen out of the mainstream spotlight, they're winning. If you look at last season when Colorado was the most talked about team in college football, they initially made headlines because they got off to a hot start, which was unexpected. They beat TCU in week 1 as a heavy underdog, started off as a feel-good story. They won a couple of games, but then they went on a massive losing streak. The losing streak, it kept them in the headlines through October of last year, but by the time we got to November, they were pretty much forgotten. This year, it's been the complete opposite. Colorado started the season by barely beating North Dakota State. The media, they were all over the story for about a week. Deion Sanders had that controversy with a member of the local media in Denver. Then they got their ass kicked by Nebraska. Ever since, seems like Colorado has faded from the mainstream spotlight. There's really been no reason to talk about them. They're a middle-of-the-road team. Colorado is 5-2 on the season, and I don't think they have beaten a ranked team all year. Most of their wins have come against opponents who are sub 500. Colorado is just another average team in college football, and it's reflecting in their ratings. People have clearly lost interest in the program, except, of course, people working at the worldwide leader in woke, ESPN. The other day, I'm watching a clip of First Take on YouTube. Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp, they are trying to convince their audience that Deion Sanders should be Coach of the Year. I like Deion Sanders. I think he has done a phenomenal job turning Colorado around, but Coach of the Year? As far as this season goes, he's not even the best coach in his conference. If anyone in the Big 12, which is a very weird name for a conference with 16 teams, but if anyone in the Big 12 should be in the conversation for Coach of the Year, it should be the head coach at BYU or Matt Campbell at Iowa State. Since when do we name the coach in 6th place Coach of the Year? There are 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12, and Cheyenne, they want to give Coach of the Year to the dude with 2 losses in 6th place? Me personally, I watched several Colorado games last season. This year, I haven't watched since they got their ass kicked by Nebraska. Unless you live in Boulder or Denver, there's really no point. They're not making the playoffs. There's not another big matchup on their schedule. Listen to Colorado's remaining schedule this season. Cincinnati, vomit. Texas Tech, Utah, vomit. Kansas, unwatchable. Oklahoma State, irrelevant. Who cares about Colorado? The novelty of Deion Sanders, it was able to carry them last year and for a little while this year, but if they're not going to be dominant, if they're not going to be serious contenders, there's really no reason to watch them. Just like there was no reason to watch when Deion Sanders was coaching at Jackson State. But give me your thoughts on this. Colorado ratings hit their lowest broadcast number in the Deion Sanders era. Why? Why has Colorado fallen out of the mainstream? Is it because they're winning? Has Deion Sanders managed to minimize distractions, which eliminated the controversy and the need for the media to cover the program? Give me your reason. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys on the main channel tomorrow.